councillors, brothers, sisters, comrades, friends, Assalamu alaikum. I want to begin by congratulating the organizers for this splendid meeting, the other speakers for the passion and eloquence and dignity with which they spoke, the makers, Steve and Heather, of that wonderful video and still presentation, which was greatly moving for me and I'm sure for you. And to, as I look around like Kevin and see some of the heroes, legends, veterans of our previous efforts to break the siege on Gaza, to salute every one of them and to ask them and ask you to join us in the next push. There is tide in the affairs of men, said Shakespeare, which, taken at the flood, can go on to victory. And I believe that that tide has arrived. I believe that, as Kevin put it, this is a turning point of great magnitude. Israel is politically bankrupt. Nobody loves it. Even its friends who arm it and finance it have become tired of the crisis after crisis, war after war, into which Israel has dragged its own people and dragged others. General Petraeus, the top US general, now in charge in Afghanistan, previously in charge in Iraq, spoke to the Senate Armed Services Committee just a few weeks ago, not the occasion in which he fainted, but the previous one. And he uttered the phrase that some of us have been uttering for, in my case, 35 years, that Israel has become a strategic liability to the United States of America. What began as an imperial asset to the British and became an imperial asset for the United States has become a strategic liability for the United States of America, earning them the enmity and hatred of 1.7 billion Muslims around the world and many hundreds of millions of others who know that every bullet in every gun, every rocket in every F-16, every shell in every gunboat, every missile in every tank, every salary of every Israeli soldier, sailor or airman is paid by the United States of America, and that's just not good business anymore. I've spent a lot of time in the United States over this last 18 months, since March of last year, organizing the American Viva Palestina convoy, which left on July 4th last year, and then being asked back and back and back. I've spoken in nearly 50 cities in the United States in the last 18 months, 15 months. And everywhere I go, even in America, people are questioning this never-ending support, this bottomless military, political, and of course financial support, which they are required within the US political system to give to this little settler state of 4.5 million Jews on the Mediterranean, which has become a liability to them. As Kevin said, Israel has been spending its political capital with wanton abandonment over many years. We could go back to 1982, to the massive Israeli invasion and occupation of Lebanon, to the destruction of the western part of Beirut, to the massacres in Sabra and Shatila. I would argue that's where the turning point began. But the 2006 invasion of Lebanon which was repelled by Hezbollah and the Islamic resistance in Lebanon, but which killed thousands and maimed thousands of Lebanese civilians, destroyed thousands of buildings, schools, hospitals, clinics, public buildings, multi-story blocks brought down on top of the occupants. Then the massacre which has been spoken of in Gaza of 1,417 people, most of them women, children, and old people, the vast majority of them non-combatants, all of them locked up for the duration of the bombardment, so there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. All gates locked, and death and destruction rained down, which, thanks to Press TV and Al Jazeera and other brave camera men and women, we were able to watch, sometimes live on television, as the massacre ensued. And then there was the stealing of the passports of friendly countries, countries which are never done telling us how friendly they are towards Israel. They might be friendly towards Israel, but Israel certainly isn't friendly towards them. Stolen passports from Britain, from Ireland, from France, from Australia, from Canada. A huge murder incorporated in order to kill one man in a hotel room in Dubai, and for which they have yet to be held accountable. Then the humiliation of the Vice President of the United States, Vice President Joe Biden, a lifelong supporter of Israel. There he was, proud as punch, on his first visit to Israel, country he loved, but again, which didn't love him, and which delivered to him, as Secretary of State Hillary Clinton put it, a grave insult to the United States, or as President Obama put it, a slap in the face for the United States, when they announced new illegal settlement building in Jerusalem, when Biden was there to ask them to halt the settlement building they were already engaged upon. Then the visit of Netanyahu, whose behavior in the White House was so atrocious, the president walked out of his own office, leaving Netanyahu sitting there, telling him, "Call me if you have something to say." The humiliation of Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, left standing at Tel Aviv airport with no one to receive him from the Israeli government. And then, as we've talked about so powerfully already, the massacre on the Mediterranean, in international waters, of international citizens delivering humanitarian aid to a people under siege. These 5 efforts that we have made with our allies, starting in February of 2009, have now left the edifice of the siege on Gaza crumbling before our eyes. Israel is on the run. The governments of the world, the European Union, the United Nations, the Red Cross, International Committee of the Red Cross, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, non-government organizations of no political color at all, have now reached a critical mass in their demand that this siege is ended. Not fiddled about with at the edges, not replacing one kind of list with another kind of list, but lifted.
La ilaha illallah.